Hi everyone, glad to see you back on the channel. The opening weeks of this year have delivered a momentum shift that few predicted with such speed, and the effects are rippling across the battlefield, the economy, and international politics. Ukraine has entered the year with confidence, clarity, and coordination that stand in sharp contrast to Russia's visible strain. This is not about a single battle or one announcement. It is about a pattern that has emerged across multiple fronts at the same time, signaling that Ukraine is no longer simply resisting pressure, but actively shaping outcomes. One of the clearest indicators of this shift is the way Ukraine has synchronized its military operations with diplomatic and industrial support. Instead of reacting to Russian moves, Ukrainian forces have been setting the pace. This proactive posture has forced Russia into a defensive mindset, stretching its already limited resources and exposing weaknesses that were previously hidden behind sheer scale and intimidation. The early months of the year have shown Ukrainian forces operating with improved intelligence integration. Real-time data sharing, better targeting accuracy, and faster decision-making have reduced waste and increased effectiveness. This has allowed Ukraine to achieve results with fewer resources, a critical advantage when facing a numerically larger opponent. Every successful operation compounds the pressure on Russia's command structure and morale. At the same time, Russia's problems have become impossible to ignore. Equipment shortages are no longer rumors, but realities acknowledged by Russian sources themselves. Aging systems, rushed repairs, and inconsistent supply lines have undermined operational reliability. When logistics falter, even the largest army struggles to maintain cohesion, and Ukraine has clearly learned how to exploit this vulnerability. Another factor behind Ukraine's strong start is the maturation of its defensive strategies. Instead of relying solely on static positions, Ukrainian units have emphasized mobility, deception, and layered defenses. This has reduced casualties and limited Russia's ability to claim meaningful territorial gain. Every stalled advance sends a message that time is no longer on Moscow's side. Morale plays a critical role in any conflict, and here the contrast is striking. Ukrainian society has entered the year with a sense of purpose reinforced by tangible progress. Soldiers see their efforts producing results, civilians see international backing holding firm, and leaders project confidence rooted in planning rather than rhetoric. On the Russian side, uncertainty and fatigue are increasingly evident, both among troops and within the broader population. International support has also evolved in Ukraine's favor. Aid is no longer just about emergency assistance, but long-term capability building. Training programs, industrial partnerships, and coordinated supply chains mean that Ukraine is not merely receiving equipment, but integrating it effectively. This depth of support suggests staying power, which is often more decisive than any single shipment or system. Diplomatically, Ukraine has started the year by consolidating alliances rather than scrambling to maintain them. Clear communication of goals, transparency in reforms, and accountability in aid usage have strengthened trust. This has reduced the space for Russian narratives that once aimed to fracture unity among Ukraine's partners. Russia's diplomatic position, by contrast, has weakened. Attempts to project strength are undercut by economic constraints and geopolitical isolation. While Moscow still seeks leverage through energy and influence campaigns, these tools are less effective than before. Markets have adjusted, alternatives have emerged, and the shock value Russia once relied upon has diminished. Economically, the divergence is equally telling. Ukraine's economy, though under immense pressure, has shown resilience through adaptation. Domestic production has been redirected toward defense needs, small and medium enterprises have found new roles, and digital infrastructure has kept critical services running. These developments may not grab headlines, but they form the backbone of sustained resistance and recovery. Russia's economy, meanwhile, is increasingly shaped by war-related distortions. Labor shortages, inflationary pressures, and reduced access to advanced technologies are taking their toll. Short-term workarounds cannot replace long-term structural health, and each passing month compounds the difficulty of maintaining a high-intensity conflict. Information warfare has also shifted in Ukraine's favor. Early in the conflict, Russia relied heavily on confusion and misinformation. Now, Ukraine's messaging is clearer, more consistent, and more credible. Verified updates, transparent reporting, and effective use of international media have reduced the impact of false narrative. When information aligns with observable reality, credibility becomes a powerful weapon. The battlefield results reflect these broader trends. Ukrainian operations have demonstrated patience and precision rather than reckless speed. By choosing when and where to engage, Ukraine has minimized risk while maximizing strategic effect. This approach frustrates Russian planners who expected attritional advantages to wear Ukraine down over time. Technology has amplified this advantage. Ukraine's ability to adapt commercially available systems for military use has narrowed gaps that once seemed insurmountable. Rapid innovation cycles, feedback from the field, and close collaboration with partners have created a flexible ecosystem that Russia struggles to match due to bureaucratic inertia and sanctions. Another critical element is leadership. Ukrainian leadership has maintained a consistent narrative that aligns domestic resilience with international engagement. Decisions are framed in terms of long-term survival rather than short-term optics. This consistency builds trust at home and abroad, reducing uncertainty and enabling coordinated action. In contrast, Russia's leadership faces growing internal contradictions. Messaging aimed at domestic audiences often conflicts with realities experienced by soldiers and families. This gap erodes trust and complicates mobilization efforts. When words and outcomes diverge too sharply, sustaining commitment becomes increasingly difficult. The human dimension cannot be overlooked. Ukraine has invested heavily in medical support, rehabilitation, and veteran care, recognizing that sustaining a fighting force requires more than equipment. These efforts not only save lives, but reinforce a social contract that values those who serve. This, in turn, strengthens morale and willingness to endure hardship. Russia's challenges in this area are more pronounced. Reports of inadequate support, delayed benefits, and overwhelmed medical systems contribute to dissatisfaction. Even if such issues are partially addressed, the perception of neglect can linger, affecting recruitment and retention. Energy security has also played a role in Ukraine's strong start. By diversifying supply routes and improving infrastructure resilience, Ukraine has reduced vulnerability to pressure tactics. This stability supports both civilian life and military operations, denying Russia a lever it once used effectively. As the year progresses, the strategic picture suggests that Russia's options are narrowing. Escalation carries risks that Moscow may be unwilling or unable to absorb, while de-escalation without concessions undermines the narrative of strength. Ukraine's steady gains force Russia into a reactive posture where each choice carries significant downsides. This does not mean the conflict is nearing an easy conclusion. Challenges remain immense and setbacks are inevitable. However, the difference lies in trajectory. Ukraine's trajectory points toward consolidation and control, while Russia's points toward strain and fragmentation. Momentum matters, and right now it favors Kiev. The international community is watching closely, not just for military outcomes, but for broader implications. Ukraine's performance challenges assumptions about power, resilience, and the effectiveness of coordinated support. It demonstrates that determination combined with smart strategy can offset numerical disadvantages. For Russia, the implications are sobering. Prolonged conflict under current conditions risks long-term damage to economic capacity, social cohesion, and geopolitical influence. Even if Moscow avoids outright defeat, the cost of maintaining the fight may outweigh any conceivable gains. Public opinion trends reinforce this assessment. Ukrainian society shows signs of fatigue but not collapse, while Russian society grapples with uncertainty about goals and outcomes. The difference between tired determination and confused endurance is significant, and it shapes how each side approaches the months ahead. Looking forward, Ukraine's best start to the year sets a foundation rather than a finish line. The emphasis on sustainability, integration, and credibility suggests a strategy designed for endurance. This approach does not promise quick victory, but increases the likelihood of a favorable long-term outcome. Russia's path forward appears increasingly constrained. Attempts to adapt are hampered by structural limitations and external pressures. Without meaningful change, the pattern of diminishing returns is likely to continue, reinforcing the perception that Russia is running out of viable options. In summary, Ukraine's early-year performance reflects more than isolated successes. It represents a convergence of military effectiveness, diplomatic alignment, economic resilience, and social cohesion. Each element reinforces the others, creating a system that is difficult to disrupt. Russia's difficulties, by contrast, stem from the opposite dynamic. Weakness in one area amplifies problems in others, creating a cycle that is hard to reverse. This imbalance explains why the narrative of Russia being done resonates, even if the conflict itself is far from over. As we continue to follow developments, it is essential to look beyond daily headlines and focus on underlying trends. The start of this year has made those trends clearer than ever. Ukraine is not just surviving, it is shaping the strategic environment in its favor. The months ahead will test both sides, but momentum is a powerful force. When combined with planning, support, and resolve, it can redefine what once seemed inevitable. Ukraine's best start of the year is a reminder that outcomes are not predetermined, and that persistence, when guided by strategy, can change the course of history. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel.